Greetings in the name of Yahusha Mashiach, Melech of Yasharal, Cohen forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. All esteem, honor, and glory unto Yahuwah, our Alua. My name is Melech Mikael Shalomo. This is Melech Shalomo Trading. Today is the 12th of January 2025. The time is 11:12 a.m. Eastern Time. So I'm going to do a trade recap here. I was practicing some of my strategies on Bitcoin, and I'm going to do a trade recap on it's a variant of the Black Sun strategy. So basically, Black Sun strategy is it's a sell trade from +2 VWAP or +1 VWAP. So it's a rejection of these levels, and the target is basically around -3 VWAP, -2 VWAP, -1 VWAP, right? So this red line here with the dash red line, that's the ETH open, right? So that happens at 1900 hours Eastern Time, and I have that anchored right there. So that VWAP starts from that the opening of the session in the ETH. So with that, I use these levels to kind of gauge where I want to take these trades. So the Black Sun strategy also incorporates a pivot level, right? So the pivot level doesn't have to be exactly at the sell entry, but I need to have a pivot level around the trade, right? Around the trade entry. So what we have here is the top central pivot and the central pivot, right? So that's in line with what's happening here from an order flow perspective, right? So let's see here. So let me just pull this across and give some context from a candle chart point of view. Let me just go back a little bit. So what we have here on the prior day is a kind of a range bound price action. So I use these pivot levels. These are, you can see here is labeled Camarilla R3. So that's R3. It's a Camarilla level. That's S3. That's the Camarilla S3 level. I also have the central pivots. You can see it there. That P right there, that's the central pivot. The top central, that's the bottom central right there. And these are the mid levels of the Camarilla. That's Camarilla S2, that's Camarilla S1, Camarilla R1, and R2. So this area here is basically the mean of the Camarilla level plus the floor pivot level. This is the mean of that area, right? So between this level here, these levels here is the mean of the pivot level setup, right? So because of the range yesterday, we have a tightening of the central pivots, the Camarillas, right? So let me just bring this into focus. So this here was the prior day's Camarilla R3, and it has now moved down to this level right here, right? I believe it's 94,771, right? So Camarilla S3 is at 94,264, right? So even the Camarilla S3 from the prior day, that has moved up into this session and is creating, because of the range, is created a tighter pivot range here, right? So from a Camarilla perspective, the thesis is when these pivot levels move in on each other and compress on the price, you're looking for price to break out from either Camarilla R3 or break out from Camarilla S3 and create some kind of follow through, right? So what we have here, all right, so let me just go back a little more as well to get a little more context. And again, this is the 5-minute chart, right? So let me just do this for a second here. Right, so just with the pure price action, the candles, right? This, from a Wyckoff theory perspective, this is somewhat of an accumulation, right? So we have the initial sell-off. You could say basically this is like the preliminary stop. Then this is something like let's see, that's the selling climax. We have an automatic rally. We have a secondary stop right here, and then we create something of an uptrust, right? So after this uptrust, we have somewhat of a ranging kind of motion, right? Or something like a bull flag, right? So now within the accumulation setup, we're supposed to get price movement down here to shake out below this level. So it's called a spring or a shakeout, right? Or a terminal shakeout. We didn't get that, so what we're looking at here is buying strength, right? So after we shook out here, this is as low as it got, which holds above this level, right? So the buyers are looking strong right now. They're holding up this level here, and we're not getting a terminal shakeout so far, right? So the buyers are looking to take price back above this level. Now you see me label this right here. This is a golden top zone, right? So what we're gonna do is go over to the 1 hour chart, and we're gonna see some weekly levels from the camellias and the central pivots, right? So I just want to identify why I labeled this here. So this here is the weekly Camarilla S3, which is roughly at 96,315, and the central pivot, the weekly central pivot, is 96,290. So as you see, they're in close proximities. So what they were supposed to do from a weekly perspective, we're supposed to get support at this level, because these are the Camarilla S3 is a supporting pivot level, right? We didn't get that support right there, so it broke down, right? So we broke down here. We got a little retest right there, another little retest along this level, and you could have gotten the sell trade into this buildup of an accumulation structure. So we came down to previous week's low, found buyers right there, and now we're having this price action that I broke down on the 5-minute chart, right? So it's an accumulation structure happening right now. It's either supposed to push back above, this is the weekly VWAP level right here, right? So you can see it's coinciding with this golden top zone, central pivot, and weekly Camarilla S3. So what we need for to maintain this bullish posture is for it to push back above VWAP and above this level here before the end of the day, I guess, because the next weekly session is going to start soon, right? At 1900 hours tonight. So during this session here, we should try and get back up to this level. Now, if we don't, we could continue into the next session, right? And start pushing above this level here. But what we don't want is for this wick right here to maintain, and we push back down into this structure right here, right? So let's go back here. And I'm gonna get to my trade that I did earlier this morning, but I just want to break down the structure of what's happening right now with Bitcoin, right? So let's fix this. Right, throw back on the pivot levels, and right, so what we could see here now from price action is that we came down to Camarilla S4, and buyers did their job today so far, right? They don't really have to do any more. They pushed from Camarilla S4 all the way up to floor pivot R1 and Camarilla R4, right? So that's where you can see they're taking profit right now, and we broke back into this this Camarilla R3 and S3 inside value day range, right? So what we're not seeing right now is a breakout. You remember I was saying, like, this setup either leads to a range or a breakout, right? So what's happening here now is they're actually failing at the breakout and they're just coming back into the range. So it's basically like a range from this level here all the way up to Camarilla R4, right? So this is not looking really promising right now for continuation. It's looking like we're just distributing right here, right? All right, so this was my trade here. This happened at let's see, we're gonna start from this area right here. This is from around 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and we have this uptrust right here, right? And we didn't get any follow through after that. We pulled back to weekly session VPOC, right? We found a little buyers, came back up here and started creating these lower points of supply, right? So at 1900 the new session starts. We initially sell off, came back up here to test second upper deviation, right? And we started to get the exhaustion right there. So let me just go into the minutia of that. Right, so starting from the session open here at 1900 hours. This is the volume point of control as well that moved down into price. We start getting the initial sell-off. Broke below the volume point of control for the week, the weekly session so far. Found some buyers right here. We had a buy and sweep, right? So those neon greens symbols, they symbolize that there's a buy and sweep. So we're sweeping multiple levels on this buy right here, right? Usually this kind of indicates some kind of exhaustion is happening, right? If the buyers don't continue after this happens, usually you get a sell-off, right? So they initially buy. If they exhaust, they sell off. If they continue with the buying pressure, then we could move up, right? And you have a secured stop right here. Like if you want to enter at like the break of this level here, you have a secured stop because the buyers are holding this level where they initially initiated the buying, right? So we have that push up. We are pushing back up to, what is this here? Second upper deviation, right? And as you can see, this is happening around the central pivot level and yesterday's settlement, right? And again, this is Camarilla R3. It's an inside value day. That's Camarilla S3. Right, so I'm looking at this now. This is the volume point of control. It has moved down from this level, as I said before, right? Came down into price action. Price action now has to prove, these buyers have to prove that they want to push back up to Camarilla R3. What's not happening right now is the strength of the buyers, right? They're getting rejected at this level here. This is the second upper deviation, dash red line. You see I'm highlighting it right there. We're pushing back down below VWAP, right? You see I'm highlighting it. You see that box right there, ETH VWAP. Pushing below the weekly VPOC, getting some buyers again, buying sweeps, right? Buying sweeps with no follow through, hitting the VPOC, pulling back, and now we're gonna just look at the structure a little closely. We're starting to get exhaustion here. We're making some lower points of supply, right? So it's basically lower highs, right? From a Wyckoff theory perspective, these are called lower points of supply, right? So lower points of supply, coming back here, breaking down to VWAP, came back and retested. This is a lower point of supply compared to this one right here, right? We have a buy and sweep here again, no follow through. So that's where I entered the trade right here, right? So it's a rejection of the first upper deviation, volume point of control with the top central pivot right there, right? So took the short. You can see that's the break-even point on the short. You see to the left hand side that highlights when I go over this right here, that red band. right? So we take the short, we get nice selling. It's a selling sweep as well. Initially looking like we're getting a pullback, came back to retest just above my entry. Sellers take control again. Some buying sweeps, selling sweeps, and we get the follow through. More selling sweeps, we get a buying sweep within this as well, and more follow through from the sellers, right? So now we broke down VWAP, we retested VWAP a little bit right here, broke down, came down to -1 VWAP deviation, -2 VWAP deviation, came back, retested -1, and sellers take control again, right? And as we come down here, I hit my target here, executed at 94280, and as you can see, that's just above this Camarilla S3 level. So basically I'm taking, it's a Blackstone strategy from the top central pivot back down to the Camarilla S3 level, which is, to me, it was just like it was a safe target to try and hit, right? So we did get more follow through to the downside. As I showed you, they came down to, they came down to Camarilla S4. I don't have that labeled here right now, but let me go back to the chart, right? So they came down to Camarilla S4 and below, right? My trade ended right here, so right, that was the buy right there, Camarilla S3, and the short was from here, right? So that's basically like a variant of the Black Sun strategy. Usually I want the Black Sun strategy to take place more at Camarilla R3, but in the slow ETH session, right, I could afford to risk it at this level here at the top central, because we're getting multiple what could I call it, multiple anomalies that suggest that we're gonna get the short, right? So the strategy is this is a variant of the Black Sun strategy, but it's within the same principles of having a rejection at +1 or +2 VWAP in line with a pivot level, and then you take the sell trade, which was at 94,560, right? So we're around 100k. We're still looking at 100k as the target here for Bitcoin. Prior week's high was at let's see here. Right, so the prior week high was 98,976, right? So this is what we're looking to get, like I guess into the next session or the next week's session, is to move back up into this 100k range, right? So it's just a matter of time before we get back to that level. Maybe we'll distribute a little more, but to get to 100 grand right now, we have like about 5,110 points from where current price is right now. So it's very feasible. Bitcoin is very volatile. All it takes is a huge buyer to really push that back up right there, right? And Bitcoin tends to do that sometimes. So yeah, that's my breakdown on my trade, a little technical analysis, kind of showing you a little bit of Bookmap's order flow, which kind of helps you to read price action on a minute level, right? And from what we could see right now, we're having a distribution right here. This is like a uptrust, and I use the Wyckoff theory to kind of read price action as well, to read the structure of the market, right? So Bookmap gives you the time and sales, because these bubbles right here are basically a delta of the time and sales, and with that it gives you a structure where you could read it from a Wyckoff theory perspective, and it gives you some accurate price levels or price action to read from a Wyckoff theory perspective to take these trades at, if you want to be a sniper, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You're getting some Like on a candle, you would just see like a bouncing around here, but you actually see the exhaustion happening here, right? In a candle, you would just see there was some up and down, and this is like, let's say this is a 5 minute candle. All you would see probably is like, let's say the candle opens here, we push up, we push down, we push back up. So you would see something like a little wick here, I guess, right? For the candle to open above where it, for it to close above where it initially opened. But right here, you get to see there was a big transaction right here, right? We pull back and then we're getting more exhaustion. So although this may have a wick at the bottom suggesting maybe some more upside, you could actually see from a bookmap perspective on the order flow and the time and sales being presented in this way that this is some exhaustion happening here, right? So we come back down to this VWAP level. Let's see what's happening here. We have consolidation broke down from that VWAP. Sellers are still in control. We're back at Camarilla R3. Buyers have to now prove themselves and push back out of this Camarilla R3 level and take us back up and further up past Camarilla R4, right? And you can see here from the structure, right? It's a little bit of an accumulation happening right here, because we're no longer just moving down. We're starting to move sideways. Buyers could initiate from here and start pushing back up to VWAP, right? That's -1. Push back up to VWAP, break above yesterday's high again, and move back up to Camarilla R4 and floor pivot R1. Alright, y'all, so it's Melek Mikael Shalomo. It's Melek Shalomo Trading. I hope you enjoyed the little breakdown, bookmap, and my trading strategy, how I read the order flow, how I use the Wyckoff theory structures and labels to kind of pinpoint where I want to take these trades. And yeah, I'm doing some evals. Well, I'm trying to pass some more evals from Apex on the futures side of things, and just get this business up and running, you know what I'm saying? So you'll just stick with the journey, stick with me with the journey, and through the journey, and we'll see how far we get with this, you know what I'm saying? Alright, y'all, it's Melek Mikael Shalomo. Y'all trade safe and stay blessed.